Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking the Flash episode Godspeed. And this is our big Nora origin story. And I thought it's generally a pretty solid episode. Uh, but there are a few flaws, and I found that in general, some points that some of the fans have been saying about this episode, I found myself strongly disagreeing with. Let's get right into it. All in all, Nora's origin it's nicely done. You can clearly tell they're obviously borrowing some beats from Barry's origin. The whole CSI being like the crime scene thing. There's some nice mythology gags. Apparently, like Leah shares the name of like the Flash on a different Earth. You get to see that little callback in the episode where to how Eobard coached Barry through learning to phase through matter. It's all nicely done. Um, but it does kind of lead to the whole situation with one, people get pissed at Sherlock for not voicing his suspicions of Nora earlier. And I find this to be a very unfair thing to do. Because Sherlock had said, I think Nora's working isn't being truthful with us. She's working with somebody else, and that she might not have our best interests at heart, or that person she's working with might be someone who doesn't have our best interests at heart. Well, no, they're just going to yell in his face about how he doesn't have any proof of that sort of things, and unless he has mind-bogglingly amazing proof, he should just keep his mouth shut. That's exactly what would have happened. Because look at the characters we're dealing with and how they react to things like that. That is exactly how they would have reacted, and Sherlock was right to keep his mouth shut until he had serious proof. Now, granted, it was pretty harsh to sort of force it out of Nora in that way, but what else did he have? What else was he going to do? There's no real touchy-feely, kind way to squeeze something like this out of somebody, especially somebody who's been hiding it this long. He did it in the way that was effective and provided them with the undeniable proof that was necessary for them to really believe that Nora would do something like this. And the whole thing with Barry banishing Nora into the future, basically saying, like, here, this is your time, don't come back. Well, okay, it's true. Barry did not have the right to do that without at least speaking to Iris. That's not cool. But him ultimately saying to Nora, you could have come to me. You could have asked me for help, but you continued to go back to Eobard Thawne even after you knew what he had done, even after you knew that he had murdered your grandmother. Barry has every right in the world to be monumentally pissed off about that. Because Nora continued to go back to Thawne after that. That's dumb. She, despite knowing what he did to her grandmother, does not see him for the man that he really is. And I do like that Tom Cavanaugh is kind of jumping back a little bit to Thawne in that first season where we saw that he both cared about Barry and absolutely hated him. Thawne, again, does seem to be genuinely fond of Nora. But, I mean, we cannot forget who this guy is. He murdered Barry's mom. He murdered our man, a genuine superhero. He's murdered God only knows how many other people. He worked with, Malcolm Merlin and Damien Dark on Legends to basically reshape the world into a form that suited his own interests. Yeah, um, this is an evil, evil man, and the fact that he occasionally shows some affection for other people, even genuine affection, does not negate any of that. He is not somebody to be trusted. This is a guy who teamed up with an army of Nazis for a laugh. Uh-uh. No way. Yeah, Barry was totally right. Nora just does not get who she is dealing with. And again, he probably should have said something to Iris about this. This is, their daughter, and Iris does have a right to be consulted in matters relating to this. But, okay, two wrongs don't make a right. But yeah, I am with Barry on this. Should have talked to Iris about this, but this really was the viable solution. I mean, I know that seems a little contradictory, and I agree, it is. But you should have said, like, look, Iris, this is what I think we should do. I don't like it, but I can't see any other viable option. You got anything for me? And I don't think I have to say, I don't think Iris would have taken Barry's side on that. But again, she just is, even though it's Iris, she just does not see Thawne as clearly as Barry does. So yeah, there is no perfect solution here, but at the end of the day, yeah, I think Barry made the right call. That's probably what I would have done in his situation. And as much as I hate to say it, if Iris had said, "Okay, no, I'm against you banishing her," I'm like, sorry, honey, I I understand where you're coming from, but I'm gonna have to overrule you. I'm gonna have to override you on this. I'm the speedster here, and you can't stop me, which is, unquestionably a really shit thing to do. But yeah, I have to say that's what I would have done in that situation. Let's see, what else do we have to talk about here? Oh yeah, of course, Godspeed. Hold on one moment. Rooibos tea, if you're curious. So, Godspeed, pretty important character in the comic. A little disappointing here on the show. Godspeed is a big deal in the comics here. He's, as TV Tropes puts it quite correctly, a starter villain. A speedster who's just defeated the initial episode that he appears. I mean, granted, Velocity was kind of like that, but she sort of ultimately destroyed herself, and she did prove herself to be a reasonably formidable adversary. Godspeed really didn't pull off all that much that was impressive. And his costume definitely had its moments of looking seriously goofy. I mean, great that you got B.D. Wong here. Of course, we know him from Law and Order, from Gotham, really, really talented actor. But it just sort of feels like if you get somebody that good, you should do something more with them. So I kind of like the idea that, okay, maybe we can set Godspeed up to be a more formidable adversary in the future. I mean, the shows of the creators of the show said we're not going to have another speedster be the big bad for a season, but he could still be, a serious threat. Somebody who's around for a while, maybe working with another villain who is ultimately the big bad of a future season. But still, or just somebody to kind of continue to be an ongoing challenge. Somebody who starts off as not a particularly impressive villain, but goes on to sort of be someone that they really need to take seriously. Sort of Nora's own Eobard Thawne in a way, if you want to think about it like that. It would certainly be something interesting to see, and Wong has more than sufficient acting chops to do a really, really great job with it. But yeah, that I think kind of really covers what I had to say about this episode. It's good with Nora's origin. Godspeed's kind of cool, but has his flaws. I mean, the guy has no real personality at all. And I have to say, I do take the side of Sherlock and Barry in this episode. And the idea of, I don't know, like the whole bit with them torturing Thawne in prison, that I also have to say I didn't like, now that I think of it. It sort of seems like a way of engineering sympathy for him, even though he's done all these really horrible things. it just seems unnecessary. Like, no, I mean, I'm not saying that he deserves to be tortured. You don't torture people, even if they're really awful people like Thawne. That's just not what decent human beings do. But again, I think this is just trying to paint Thawne in a more sympathetic light than he really deserves. At best, he's somebody who's realized, like, well, this really might be the end of it for me, and is just sort of resigned to his fate, but that's no sign of moral superiority or decency in any way. I did like that we get to see him eating that fast food, and you see on the clock that it's like 10 minutes until his execution. And they don't even have to say that it's his last meal. You can just kind of infer it from the situation. And that's actually quite a nice little character touch. Thawne really does love modern fast food, which I think is kind of an endearing character quirk for someone who's just this really um, vile person. It does add a nice little touch of humanity to him, and that's one of the reasons why I really like Thawne as a character. He's absolutely great at being a villain you just absolutely hate. Because at the end of the day, he is just this enormously vain and petty man who's chose to squander all of his enormous potential on a guy who never actually did anything to him. But anyway, I'm going to call it here. So until next time, guys, thanks and take care and have a good one.